This is Michael with the Bible Made Me Catholic. This Protestant minister here is saying that the Bible that we have today was not put together by the Catholic Church. Well, let's listen and see what he says.
I can promise you, sir, if I thought that the evidence pointed to the Gospels and to the New Testament being put together by the Catholic Church, I'd be highly suspect. But, sir, who on earth told you that the New Testament was put together by the Catholic Church?
I believe it was the Catholic Church. When I say put together, I don't mean it was written. I mean that a bunch of books were written, and there was an assembly in like 600 AD-ish area around that time where they said, we like these books, we don't like these, and they reformed it, and they put out books they don't like, and they kept books that they do like. This actually did happen.
Well, sir, if that actually did happen, I wouldn't believe in Jesus.
Okay, I do.
Because it did not actually happen, I can promise you.
Okay, has anybody else heard of this? She's heard of it? Anybody else?
The Catholic
He's heard
Church
of it.
has more books in the Old Testament than the Apocrypha.
That is historical falsehood from beginning to end.
So there aren't any other books?
No, that's studying the manuscript. I have had to learn Greek. The New Testament was written in Greek. The New Testament that we have today is based on over 5,200 Greek manuscripts or pieces of manuscript dated from the 1st through the 10th century AD, found from Rome, Italy, down around the Mediterranean to Alexandria, Egypt, all agreeing to an infinitesimal degree. No council of the Catholic Church put the 27 New Testament books together. No council did. What happened was the worldwide church, from Rome, Italy, down around to Alexandria, Egypt, over a period of 200 years, accepted those 27 New Testament books as authentic and reliable. Two councils in 393 and 397, in Hippo Regius and in Carthage, put their stamp of approval on what the worldwide church had already done. The three tests that the worldwide church used to determine which books were canonical and which were not were simply these three tests. First test, was it written by an apostle, an eyewitness, or by someone who knew an eyewitness? Second test, did it agree with the orthodox oral tradition that the apostles passed down? Did it agree with the orthodoxy of the Old Testament? That is why the Gnostic Gospels were excluded, because they were based on Gnostic philosophy, which contradicts Genesis' view of God creating physical reality. And the third test was this document used around the known world, or was it just used in Antioch or in Alexandria or in Rome or in Jerusalem? It had to have universal usage. And those were the three tests that were used, and the New Testament was not put together by some council in the 600s, you said?
Okay, then can I say, on your second point,
Yeah.
second point was that it had to follow the oral tradition that already existed?
Yes?
Well, doesn't that mean that it has to agree with what's already been decided?
Well, yes. The oral tradition was Matthew, John, Peter, James, the eyewitnesses, standing up in the first century church in the 30s, 40s, 50s AD, and not depending on a written document, but saying, this is what I heard Jesus teach. This is what I saw Jesus do. Then, as the eyewitnesses began to die off in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s AD, more emphasis was put on the written word, because the eyewitnesses were dying. And then the dispute began, okay now, which are the authoritative, reliable, legitimate eyewitness records? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were accepted in the first century. Now, how do you find that out? By reading the writings of the early church fathers, like Ignatius, Bishop of Antioch, Clement, Bishop of Rome, who quote these Gospels in letters that they write. So who's ever been filling your head, your beautiful head, with these lies that the Gospels were put together, the Bible was put together by the Catholic Church, and some council in the 600s did this, it's flat out historically inaccurate. It's not true.
Boy, talk about dancing around the truth. It's obvious that Pastor Cliffe, who is a senior pastor at Grace Community Church in Connecticut, knows the truth. The issue is, if he admits the whole truth, then it will prove that the pastors or the Protestants' view and use of the Bible will be false, and that would make him wrong. It's a very humbling experience to admit when you're wrong. So instead, he focuses on the mistakes of the young student who did not have good knowledge about church history. His use of the phrase worldwide church means that if he used the word Catholic instead, he would have been proving the young man's point. What Pastor Cliffe is afraid to admit is that the phrase Catholic Church is in the Bible in Acts chapter 9, verse 31, which is used before the term Christian in Acts chapter 11, verse 26. And the word Catholic, or the phrase Catholic Church, that we can find in the earliest documents was first written down by Bishop Ignatius of Antioch, who he talks about in the video, to a letter written to the Sumerians at around 107-110 AD. Now from there, the term Catholic Church was used by Polycarp in 156 AD. It's in the Menturian fragment in 177, Tertullian in 200 AD, Clement of Alexandria in 202 AD, Sophian of Carthage in 254 AD, and then Cyril of Jerusalem in the 300s. He uses that to distinguish the true church from the heretical groups that have been forming around throughout the years, the Machonists and the Manichees sects. And then the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD established what is known as the Nicene Creed, and in it contains the phrase, the Holy Catholic and Apostolic Church. From there, Emperor Theodosius I in 380 AD used it in the Edict of Thessalonica. Jerome, in the letter to Augustine of Hippo in 418, used it, and then Augustine used it as well in his letters around the 400s. And then St. Vincent of Leons in 434 AD, and so forth and so forth. Now, while some Protestant scholars and apologists say that the early church councils didn't actually establish the Bible's canon as authoritative, the original church does teach that several different councils helped finalize the canon over time. The Council of Rome in 382 AD, and it was at this council that established the 73 books of the canon, including the Deuterocanonical books that the Protestant Bible does not have. From there, the Synod of Hippo in 393 affirmed the same canon, and then the councils of Carthage in 397 and 419 reaffirmed the decisions made at Hippo. The Council of Florence in 1431 through 1449, same thing. And then the Council of Trent in 1545 to 1563 canonized the 73 canon of books, again because Martin Luther was trying to remove books from the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. And then each of these documents that were put together and that have survived to this day from all the councils contain the words the Catholic Church in them. So if it wasn't the Catholic Church that Pastor Cliffe was talking about when he used the phrase worldwide church, what church was he talking about? Because up until 1054 AD, there was only one church in world history. Yes, different congregations, different rites based on different cultures and so forth, but only one Catholic and Apostolic Church. That is, if you don't count the heretical groups. Up until 1054, there was only one church in world history. And in 1054 is when the split occurred between the Eastern and Western churches. So what worldwide church is he talking about, if not the Catholic Church?
So dancing around, so dancing